You know, ever since I started talking about race on my channel, several bloggers of some note have labeled me a racist. Normally, these sort of spurious aspersions aren't of any consequence to me, but in this case, I do have to take a bit of offense. The two main reasons offered up for why I'm a racist are that I said that black culture is a victim cult, and I said I didn't particularly have a problem with gentrification. Both of these statements have been treated as though they were the bitter tirades of a disgruntled Klansman from back in the days when lynchings were still commonplace in America. Now, I'll start with the gentrification thing because it's easier to address. My opinion on gentrification is more of a personal opinion than a political position. I was answering a direct question posed to all white people about gentrification, and I simply answered the question. What I said was that I honestly would rather go to a shopping center full of stores and restaurants than a slum filled with poverty and crime. There's not even a racial component to this opinion, all right? If I found out that a nearby trailer park full of poor people was soon going to be transformed into a bustling sea of commerce, I'd also be fine with that. Because let's be real, the problem faced by poor people in America is not gentrification, it's poverty. And since no one in America seems to want to address that problem, I don't see why I should have to give a fuck about Tamika's rent skyrocketing because they built a Starbucks next to her. You know what's going to happen to her? She's going to move out of her shitty apartment and go live in a different shitty apartment somewhere else instead. The tragedy of her life is not being displaced from one shithole to another shithole. The tragedy of her life is that she has to live in shitholes to begin with. Don't you agree? As for the thing about black culture being a victim cult, let me contextualize this a little. In my eyes, America is rife with victim cults. Most of modern feminism is a victim cult. Most religions are victim cults. Anytime a group of people views everything that inconveniences them as all of society slighting them, that's a victim cult. How many fake racial controversies have we seen play out in the media? The Oscars didn't nominate enough black people according to black people. That's racist. This Gap ad, racist. Why? Because the black girl is being used as a prop for the white girl. Funnily enough, it turns out that these two girls are actually sisters. So is this girl racist against her own fucking sister? Someone used the term hard worker. Ooh, that's racist too. I did a whole video about that fucking debacle. When it comes to black America, anything that could be perceived as a slight will be. Just like feminists who say we live in a patriarchal rape culture. Just like right-wing Christians who cry about losing their religious freedom to keep gay people oppressed. It's impossible not to offend people who are determined to be offended no matter what. Also, why is it that if a black person says that all of society is racist, that generalization has to be accepted, but if I say that black culture is a victim cult, that generalization is bad and I deserve censure? Isn't the very purpose of freedom of speech that we should discuss these ideas? Is systemic racism against black people a problem in America? Is black America overly sensitive and too eager to take offense? To my mind, both of those are valid questions, but only one of them is considered racist. But let's get off the subject of race for a moment. Let's talk about just victim culture in general. And I view America as a victim culture. Being a victim is totally in vogue in this country. That's why we've got rich black kids going to fucking Princeton and Harvard who will happily lecture a poor white person on their privilege. That's why we've got college kids screaming in the dean's face because his wife dared to tell people not to get offended by fucking Halloween costumes. That's why we've got all of major media pushing a feminist whose main thesis is video games are sexist. And dissent to that perspective is treated as though it were wholly irrational. That's why we feel the need to give iconic characters sex and race changes so we can pat ourselves on the back and say, oh, what progress. It's all victim culture. It's all cry-bully culture. We're oppressed, so you must obey us without question. I mean, geez, I didn't know oppression came with such perks. I wish I was fucking oppressed. In America, for every real victim out there, there's about 100 whiners who just want to play the victim card to get attention for themselves because victimhood is a form of social currency at this point. You get to go with other victims and play your victim card, and then they all validate it, and oh yeah, you're a victim, and then you have to validate theirs. You're a victim too. But it's just a big circle jerk. And most of these people are victims only of their own egomania and stupidity. So black victim culture is just a small subcategory of victim culture in general. and plenty of people in this victim culture are white. Probably the majority are. But not all of black culture is a victim cult, okay? Black culture is just as diverse as any other culture, but a lot of what comes across in black media and from black activism seems like hypersensitive crybaby bullshit to me. But hey, I'm just a big white asshole, so I could totally be wrong. And you can disagree with my opinions if you want to, but please try to abstain from calling me a fucking racist. A racist is someone who believes in the superiority of one race or who hates certain people based solely on their skin color. I don't hold those beliefs or feelings. I judge people by their own merits as individuals, which is pretty much the exact fucking opposite of a racist. And the reason I care so much about this label being applied to me is that when you call me a racist, you're grouping me in with people who literally share nothing in common with me. You think I want to be friends with neo-Nazis and Klansmen? Well, guess what? I fucking don't. And I don't much care for it when I'm lumped into their company by the intellectually lazy. I'm the Amazing Atheist. Peace the fuck out.